Pickles, and welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a super long time since we last had a video on here. I'm so sorry about that. Things got super crazy really fast. I was sick for some time, I was working, traveling, and then I started my senior year. But now I'm back, and I'm so happy and so excited to share this video with you. Now, the last few videos we've done have all focused a lot on the language. I mean, it is a Latin channel, so we've been talking a lot about word origins and etymology and phrases. But today I thought let's try something different, get a little bit of a break from that. So we're going to be talking about some mythology. Now, I'm a huge mythology nerd. It's what got me into learning Latin and Greek in the first place, and I love reading about it and talking about it, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do as well. But I thought today we would specifically focus on ways in which we see or, hear mythology in our daily lives. So things like store names or logos, you get the gist. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it.
Fine. Show them what crazy can do.
So, as you just saw on the screen there, our first subject is the brand Nike. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Nike. They're a super famous athletic brand. They sell sporting gear and athleisure wear and shoes, all kinds of stuff that we would use in exercise and in sports. But did you know that the name Nike, as well as the logo of the brand, actually does come from Greek mythology? Nike was the Greek goddess of victory. In her Roman form, she was called Victoria, and that's where we get the word victory from. She was a goddess who had wings, and she represented victory in art, music, war, and athletics. She was one of the symbols for the Olympic Games. Additionally, she was the chariot bearer, so she managed the chariot of Zeus. So Zeus had a chariot pulled by the wind gods, and Nike would handle that whenever the gods rode out to war, because it was seen as a sign of victory. And as I mentioned, she also did have wings. She has wings. They're described in a lot of different ways. Some people describe them as gold, some people describe them as white. But my main point here is that the little, check marky thingy on the Nike logo is not actually a check mark. The swoosh, it's actually supposed to refer to or represent Nike's wings. Now, when Nike came around to thinking about what logo they were going to choose, choosing the goddess of victory is a great omen, especially for a brand that is all about sports, because it really ties back to the ancient Greeks and the Olympic Games and the practice of athletic games all the way back then. So that is the meaning behind Nike, and let's take a look at our next one.
You can always cancel. Seriously, no one would judge you if you call it off. Okay.
Learn all the ways to save with Amazon.
So our next brand is Amazon. Now, before I start, little disclaimer, the story I'm about to tell you actually isn't the reason why Amazon is named Amazon. It just has the same name, so I thought it would be fun to talk about. Amazon, the company, is actually named after the Amazon River, to my best knowledge. But I thought this was fun and interesting, so we're going to talk about it anyway. So the Amazons were a tribe of warrior women. They were founded by a demigod named Otrera, and basically the story goes that Otrera was often abused and mistreated by her husband. She lived in a small village, and one day she prayed to the god Ares to save her and to free her, and she therefore convinced all the women in the town to kill their husbands and run away with her. So that's a really fun story. But she ran away, and with these women founded the tribe called the Amazons. Now, the reason why I thought it was interesting that we now have a company named Amazon which does shipping is because the Amazon tribe were actually known for having an intricate, elaborate system of conveying goods across Greece and across many regions of the Mediterranean. So I found that super interesting. There's a bit of a parallel there. You see the Amazons pop up several times through mythology. They come up in the Iliad. Achilles fights the warrior queen Penthilea, who's she's aiding Troy. Achilles fights her, actually does defeat her. But he respects her so much he doesn't, destroy her body or maul her body, because he has a lot of, like I said, respect for her as a warrior. So it really shows how powerful they were. They also come up in the labors of Heracles or Hercules. Hercules has to steal the golden belt of the Amazon. Now, the belt was something which basically showed who the queen of the Amazons were. So if you were the queen of the Amazons, you would wear this golden chain-like linked belt, and that would give you power. It was imbued with strength and power. So Hercules had to steal it. There are a few different versions of this myth. In some of them, he does basically slaughter the Amazon and steal it. In other cases, he trades one of their escaped or one of their captured sisters in exchange for the belt. So a couple different interpretations, but that's a little bit about the Amazons for you. Let's keep moving. So the next thing we're looking at isn't a store or a brand, but the logo of the NASA Apollo 13 mission, which is Apollo flying his sun chariot. So Apollo was the god of the sun, so he would drive his chariot across the sky and bring daylight to the world. Now, it's an interesting thing to note that Apollo wasn't always the sun bearer or the person who would drive the sun chariot. It was originally the job of a titan. They came before the gods, if you're not familiar, of the titan Helios, which is where we get the prefix helio from. So helio means sun. That comes from the name Helios. But the reason why Apollo took over is because one day Helios had this demigod son named Phaeton, and Phaeton was so curious as to who his father was that he stormed in to Helios's palace and was like, "You have to guarantee me one promise. I need you to swear on the river Styx." Now, in ancient Greek mythology, if you swore on the river Styx, it was a binding promise. You couldn't really do much to escape that. So Helios, unfortunately, said yes, and Phaeton said, "You have to let me drive your sun chariot." And obviously, he was not trained, did not know what to do. Anyone else going through driver's ed, like me, can maybe relate. But he was chaotic. He drove too close to the earth and too far. That's why the ancient Greeks believe we have deserts as well as tundras, is because they are the places that Phaeton either came too close and scorched the earth or removed all light by driving too far. Long story short, he was killed in a crash. Zeus had to strike him down to save the earth, and in grief, Helios abstained and said, "I will no longer drive this chariot," and Apollo took over. So, when the people designing the logo for a space mission, the Apollo 13 space mission, were thinking of a logo, they thought, what's something that represents space as well as light? And they took Apollo. Let's keep moving on. So our last brand we're going to look at, we're not actually talking about the name, we're going to talk about the logo, is everyone's favorite coffee shop, Starbucks. Now, I love Starbucks, I'm sure a lot of you guys too, but one thing you may have not noticed or looked too closely at before is the logo. So the Starbucks logo is actually a siren. It's a woman, like a mermaid almost, but it's actually a siren from ancient Greek and ancient Roman myth. Now, sirens, despite being beautiful, were actually super deadly creatures. They would sit on the rocks of islands, and when sailors passed by, would sing a song so beautiful that sailors were drawn in and would try and seek out the source and end up crashing into the rocks. So not the best, most brave, valiant creatures. They were pretty evil. I think the most famous story of the sirens probably comes in the Odyssey. Basically what happens is Odysseus and his men are sailing past an island. but previously they had stopped to meet the deity Circe, and that's a whole story, I won't get into it. But basically, Circe had warned them that they are going to meet the sirens and told Odysseus what he needs to do is have his men fill their ears with wax, so when they pass by the sirens, they can't hear the song. Now, Odysseus tells all his men to do that, but he's super curious, super inquisitive, and is like, all right, well, I've got to hear this. So he makes his men tie him to the ship, and he listens to the song, and no matter how hard he struggles, his men hold him back. In fact, in a translation of this, what is said is, "First you will come to the sirens who enchant all who come near them. If anyone unwarily draws in too close and hears the singing of the sirens, his wife and children will never welcome him home again, for they sit in a green field and warble him to death with the sweetness of their song." And that's from the Samuel Butler translation of the Odyssey. So you really see kind of what sirens were. Now, I don't know why Starbucks chose this. Maybe they were thinking that, hey, you know what, we're gonna lure everyone in and get addicted on our coffee. But yeah, you'll have to ask them that. But anyway, those are all our logos / brand / missions for today. I hope you enjoyed that video. I had fun looking it up and rereading all these stories. It was something a bit different. But in our next video, we'll probably turn back to our little Latin place and look at some more words and language. So until then, I hope everyone has a great week. If you enjoyed this, make sure to hit subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and come back soon for more. I'll see you then. Bye!